is 12:01. We will call this special meeting to order. Mr. Secretary, for the record, do we have a quorum?
Mr. President, we do.
Very good. So with that, for the record, we do have a quorum. This is an announcement that the meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meetings Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. And now we'll move on to the Pledge of the United States flag and the Texas flag. And we'll have Dot. Ms. Winter, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Let's have a moment of silence. Thank you. Right, now we'll move on to the next agenda item in open session. This is discuss and possible action to authorize administration to enter into a partnership agreement with Guadalupe Media Ltd. Mr. Roan.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, public, for everybody showing up and being a part of this this opportunity. This agenda item has the opportunity to create a win-win for the students of Seguin ISD and the Guadalupe Media, which owns KWED AM and the Seguin Daily News. By entering into a partnership with Guadalupe Media, we are able to keep the radio station and newspaper in Seguin while providing numerous opportunities for our current and future students. The partnership, if approved, allows us to take a different approach to what we offer our students and how our community is marketed for future growth. We will be able to cross-promote our schools, our businesses, our community achievements through a comprehensive branding package that includes radio, print, video scoreboard, marquees, a new Seguin app, and our Performing Arts Center upon completion. Our students will benefit through a hands-on approach in which multimedia opportunities are provided. In addition to benefiting our students, we intend to keep the radio and newspaper in our community and make them financially solvent. The nuts and bolts of the partnership include the cost. The lease agreement partnership is $6,250 per month, totaling $75,000 per year for 5 years. Taxpayer funds will not be used in this partnership. Personnel. All current employees with KWED, the Seguin Daily News, will have the opportunity to apply to be a part of the partnership and help this endeavor succeed. The employees hired will work for the district and be eligible for district employee benefits. Facilities. Our intent is to move the operations to available space at the district office. I have met with professionals to ensure that we meet FCC regulations. A transition plan. I've been working closely with the shareholders of Guadalupe Media to ensure that the transition runs as smooth and seamless as possible. It will take us some time to complete the transition, as change does, and I just want to say that business partners with public schools are commonplace and considered the best practices in many communities. It's time that we increase this opportunity for our students of Seguin ISD. Now, at this time, I'd like to have our attorney, Nick Maddox, if you could come up and kind of go over the contract in general with you.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, and Superintendent Roan.
I don't think so.
Am I now on?
Yes, sir.
1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. Mr. President, Superintendent, members of the board, thank you for having me up here.
Can't hear him. Speak up.
I have a red light here.
Yeah, it's on. It's just got to turn off.
I have a red light here.
I'm not sure
What
what
number
the
is that?
procedure is, but there's about 30 of us out in the hallway
Test,
that
test, test.
cannot hear.
What number is
Is
that?
there a way to open things up?
Mic
so
10.
that people that have come can hear?
Well, we've got, I need to know how many people are coming, so.
Wall open.
Move the partition. Let's get the mic fixed first.
We'll wait.
Where's Mongo? We got time.
Yeah. Check. There.
Test 1, 2. There we go. Test, test. Where's the board? Can you hear me okay? Test 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yes, sir.
Test, test. Okay. I'll try to be loud.
Speak loud.
Okay, sorry about that. So what we have here for the board today is 2 contracts. One is for the newspaper, one is for the radio station. We've divided them into 2 because it's pursuant to FCC rules. The radio station has to be handled slightly differently than the newspaper. They do mention each other, so legally they are one document, but it's simply 2. So if you have any questions about why we're signing 2 agreements, that is why. Any some feedback? Okay. Both documents for the newspaper and for the radio station is $3,125 apiece. So we get the combined total, as Mr. Rohn told us. As far as working through this agreement, I worked closely with counsel of Guadalupe. I, of course, did this on my end as well as Ben Castillo. So attorneys were involved. Everyone's interests were represented fairly. I think this contract is very robust, very fair. It accomplishes everything we need from Seguin. It accomplishes everything that our partner needs at the radio station. It's for a term of 5 years. So that can start whenever, or if the board ratifies the signing of this document, that is when that day will start, 5 calendar years from that date. There is a provision involved that we have the option to purchase. If we do, after 5 years, decide as a district to purchase this station and the newsprint, all the money that we paid in rent will go towards the purchase price. So we will not lose any money in rents. That'll simply be rolled into the fair market value of these entities. So the rest of the contracts is pretty boilerplate. It's standard legal language, governing law, severability, that sort of thing that I'd be happy to take any questions on. But really, as far as the meat and potatoes of the contracts go, those are the main terms. So I'm happy to take any questions now from the board. Of general questions, unfortunately, I am bound by privilege, so a specific legal question I will not be able to answer. That's best left for executive. But as far as I can, I will be happy to field questions now.
I'm open the panel up to Mr.
So one of the things that we can do is, as we talk about the contract overview, then we can go into financial and then educational opportunities and then questions from the board. So if you could just please step to the side.
Absolutely.
Mr. Hilbert.
Thank you.
President Flores, Superintendent Rohn, members of the board, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Not sure exactly what format you'd like to do this in, but just from a financial perspective, be happy to answer any questions that you feel would be helpful.
I'm open this up to the technical comment.
sold.
Sorry about that. My question was that,
Hold on, we'll get it fixed, wait just a second.
Remind the public, this is a board meeting, and ma'am, we'll try to get all the mics straightened out, so please bear with us.
testing?
There you go.
No, okay, good,
And
good.
have one more mic on.
Oh, I see, okay, sorry. Earlier it was said that there would be no tax monies financing this, so how will it be financed?
Okay. And that is a good question. Is the mic on? Can you hear me?
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Okay, well, it's a little uncomfortable, but nonetheless,
So sorry.
there is no reason to use public funds for this lease, nor would there be any reason to use any public funds for the subsequent purchase, should the board choose to do that. The reason for that is because, as it stands right now, the school district, Seguin Independent School District, has a lease arrangement with a supermarket chain right here in the Oak Park Mall Shopping Center. Now, over the course of the last 20 years, that supermarket has been paying the school district a monthly rent. And the district has been retaining a portion of those funds from time to time. Some of them are used for the renovations of this building and some other needs of the district to a minimal extent. But there is sufficient revenue incoming as it stands with that lease arrangement to cover all the costs associated with what's described here in this lease purchase option. So no tax dollars, no public funds would be necessary in any way, shape, or form.
So you're referring basically to the lease we get from Arlen's Supermarket?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Thank you.
Who originally paid for this building?
Mr. President, if I can interrupt,
Yes, sir.
under BED local, it is unlawful against our policy to interrupt a public board meeting. I would invite you at this time to issue the first warning that is required under BED local to the public.
First warning noted. Next, be advised, general public, that this is a board meeting. Any more outbursts after that, we would be asking you to be removed from this site. May continue, sir.
Again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yes, sir, Mr. Holt. I'm sorry, let's go with Mr.
No,
Gill.
no.
Oh, you're pointing that way, okay.
I do have some questions. So currently, what are we spending in advertising with this particular media group?
Well, I guess I'm not really prepared to answer that. I don't really know how that.
I have round numbers. We spend about $10,000 a year with Cricket Chirps, and Sean does some publications with a couple of other areas, but we have about a $10,000 a month, or a year amount that we spend on that.
And in the event that some for unforeseen reason that our leasee of this establishment would decide to back out, what would be the remedy or the solution to continue making payments on this type of lease?
And it's a fair question. Currently, as it stands right now, the amount of money that is actually held on account for the Oak Park Mall lease is sufficient to cover the entire purchase. We would not be, at this point, dependent on the monthly. Yes, sir.
Okay, when you keep referring to the purchase, I'm talking about lease. I'm not even want to talk about the purchase yet. Okay, because I mean, from what I understand right now, that's an option. That's not even, there's not a dollar amount in this contract anywhere other than
If I may,
purchase. Oh, okay, I see it now. I apologize. That's my bad. So the 400,000 would be the full extent.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Which I would, if I could, I'd like to clarify that because
Okay.
the attorney, when he was speaking, he mentioned that it would be an option to purchase at fair market value. Actually, the contract that I've read indicates that the purchase would be $400,000. Mr. Maddox, am I correct on that?
Yes, sir, the radio tower specifically. There's different portions of the purchase options, so it depends on kind of if we want the whole package or a certain specific part of one of these facilities.
So from what I've read, $400,000 would be the option price at the end of 5 years. $375,000 of that $400,000 would have been paid through the monthly lease payments. So that at the end of the term, should the board decide to exercise its option to make the purchase, it would only owe, or Seguin ISD would only owe an additional $25,000. Mr. Maddox, am I correct in saying that?
Yes, sir.
So I just want to make sure that I'm giving everyone the correct information. That's based on what I know. So in other words, Mr. Holt, to answer your question, the full extent possible from what I've read that the district would be liable for, even if it chose to exercise the option to make the purchase, whether it does or doesn't is subject to further discussion, but if it did choose, all of those funds, the full $400,000 is available right now in the savings that have accrued over time from the revenues. So even if the lease agreement with the supermarket were to fall through tomorrow, you would still have those monies available and no public funds would ever have been used.
Thank you.
I have another question, but it's partly financial part, and I'm not sure who needs to answer this. I'll throw it out if you want to do it later. Okay. In some of the emails that I've gotten from people yesterday, there's a perception that this would be like a takeover of the radio station and the paper. So obviously, for it to be a win-win situation, there has to be something in it for the paper financially and for the licensee, KWED. So what is the financial benefit for the school as opposed to the financial benefit for the radio station newspaper that makes it a win-win?
Well, I can certainly only attest to a part of that, not being fully familiar with the financial situation of the radio station and the newspaper, but it's my understanding that solvency is an issue for them. Now, that being the case, the school district has an opportunity to maintain the local newspaper and radio station. That would be a win for them, would be the presumption. Now, as far as Seguin ISD goes, how that is a win, financially, it's debatable as to whether it's a win or a loss, I suppose you could say. But so you'd have to look at, is it a win for the students? And so I wouldn't be the one to speak to that. But it is my understanding that the concept is that the radio station and the newspaper would be something that would be merged in ultimately into the curriculum and allow these students access to something that they otherwise might not have access to. But again, we would have to have one of the other board members or other executive staff answer that for you, and we can do that if you'd like.
I can help since I was part of the negotiations directly. One of the big things that the shareholders have had issues with is, as Mr. Hilberg said, solvency. They've been in the red for a few years.
You're
and
thinking of the KWED shareholders, right?
Yes, ma'am. I apologize. KWD shareholders. And they're the same shareholders that are doing the newspaper too. So it's all one. And so the issue was that, you know, if they were going to have to maintain, if they were going to be able to maintain the newspaper and the radio station, they were not going to be able to continue to operate in the red. And so we went to a conference, all of us, and we saw that Longview ISD, Mesquite ISD has done similar packages to allow for business to work with the local school in order to provide enhanced opportunities for our students. Being that, you know, we've kind of made a name for ourselves in Seguin. I mean, we should be very proud of this opportunity because the truth is, I mean, we have. I'm pretty proud of our students. We've got the longest running journalism department in the state. I think I'm pretty proud of that. So, I mean, I think, I mean, I wish this many people were here when we had our academic results. But my point is that I want to give these kids an opportunity to experience some of the things. I mean, we will be the only district, if this is approved, that has opportunity for our kids to actually work hand in hand and lay out a paper, set up a broadcast, work with the Jumbotron, work with the different opportunities. We've got opportunities to market our businesses and work in partnership to add to the advertising marketing that has been targeted by KWD, building on their strengths, you know, and trying to streamline and make it more efficient, because we can do the accounting. We don't have to pay the taxes. That frees up a property. They don't have to pay utilities. And then we can keep the staff in place. They can reapply. We can see, you know, I mean, that doesn't mean that everybody's guaranteed a job. We're gonna hire the people that we feel like are suited for the job. And we want our kids to get those opportunities.
Sharon, you mentioned in your comment there are other districts and universities that have done this, and obviously in the media, our buddies from San Antonio Media are here. One thing that I saw last night was mentioned that, I don't know if it was a president or somebody for the FCC or journalism, some from the national level, was quoted in saying that. Could you elaborate a little bit about that, please? As you say, you mentioned there are other districts that have done this, so that's when we
Well,
inquired about
the
that.
quote that I think you're citing is from Oscar Rodriguez, president of the Texas Association of Broadcasters. I guess he was on last night on News 4 San Antonio. And he said several other Texas school districts have licenses to operate an over-the-air radio or TV station. One that comes to mind is KEOS FM in Mesquite, an excellent student-run station. Many Texas community colleges and universities also operate stations. While uncommon, these programs provide an excellent introduction for students interested in pursuing a career in broadcasting, music, journalism, vast broadcasting, and audio engineering, etc. That was, I think that's what if that's what you're referring to.
Good. Open up any other comments, Mr. Holt? I'm sorry, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. I had some comments more specifically about the benefits of this program to the students and the district as a whole. I think Seguin has a very long history, positive history with journalism. As Mr. Roman just mentioned, the Cricket Chirps is the longest running newspaper in the state of Texas from a high school. We had a 1996 graduate, Lisa Falkenberg, that won a Pulitzer Prize for commentary as a columnist. She's with the Houston Chronicle, I believe. Matter of fact, Educate Seguin hosted a interview that Mr. Dunn sat on stage and discussed with her about her successes and what motivated her to become a journalist. And she was very outspoken about her time at Seguin High School, not only with the journalism department, but with her teacher. So I think that's obviously a good testimonial of our program. And most recently, our own kids at the Seguin High School have won the MatCast, or with MatCast, won this KSAT News, I think it was an anti-bullying competition where they ran a commercial. They won a $1,000 award, and they were featured on KSAT News throughout the summer. So I think obviously we've got a history of journalism here. We've got a Pulitzer Prize graduate from Seguin High School for journalism, and our MatCast group. I think that this partnership would be a springboard to the program and provide a tremendous opportunity. And just looking at it objectively, and I know everyone has a very different opinion. Obviously, I see some signs back here. I appreciate everyone's comments, both pro and con, but my perspective as a board member, we have to look at what is in the best interest of our kids, what's in the best interest of the district, and weigh the pros and cons and decide whether this is a viable partnership or not. In my opinion, I'm not seeing that many negative comments or negative I see plenty of positives and pros.
Correct. Understood. Mr. Gill, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Gill, do you have some comments?
You know, I'm just gonna echo what he said. This is thinking out of the box, trying to help our kids with something different than we already had. It would have been nice if this would have been in our school back in Chelsea, because I always wanted to go into back then it was called radio transmission, today it's called wireless communication. It did help me to go into that without knowing nothing, and I made a good living out of it. You know, I retired from the big ant, Motorola, and it was something that if I would have had an opportunity to be in the radio engineering part, which is fixing the towers and all the electronics, I would have pursued it a lot more than I did. But I was lucky enough to go to Houston. I got a job, and from there on, it was all downhill for me. So there's a lot of opportunities for a student, you know, to learn hands-on all these things. You know, it is a growing career out there on wireless communications. Now that we have computers, the Wi-Fi, you know, all that stuff is wireless, and it's coming more and more into our lives. So for us to give our kids an opportunity to go in there and learn, besides everybody's talking about the you know, the DJ and the advertising, there's also a great advantage in the technical field, and it's something very important to me anyway, because you know, a migrant worker to where I got to by the time I retired, nobody in my school ever thought that I would go back to a reunion and be who I am right now. So I want to thank the lawyers and the people that came through this and bring it to us, because this is something that can be very useful to our kids. Now I also see the signs of no radio, but there are also kids that want to be in radio. Maybe somebody else wants to be in another type of career. But we are building a early college right now. I was at the construction site Monday, and I was so proud to have seen a big old banner there that says, "Welcome to Seguin Early College." Even when you go into the early college, the journalism programs are even going to be more enhanced than what you have right now. So for those kids, not the high school, the ones that plan to go to college into this type of careers, because there's a bunch of careers there, not only one. This would be an advantage to a lot of our kids, and there is even a possibility that they can graduate out of our high school straight into the radio field without having to pay a dime. Thank you.
Thank you. One question, Mr. Guerra mentioned, and there's some signs that said that no radio. I want to say no radio. Clarification: the radio will continue. This is just the lease agreement. Okay, it's a partnership where we're going to be able to invest our kids in that opportunity. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So make sure that there's no confusion that there is going to be no radio. There is. Okay. Very good. Is there any other questions from any other board? Yes, sir, Mr. Holt.
Okay, I'm trying to review this document that was presented to me roughly about 40 minutes ago and look it over and try to understand it. I did have a question. If the current stakeholders are, and we mentioned this earlier, if the current stakeholders are having to input money to keep it afloat, what will we have to input into it to increase or to maintain the situation that we're currently in? You're talking about severability, or they're wanting to sever the ties of the station. Is that the media group themselves are, because this is a homegrown station, and I'm very aware of the individual. I'm friends with the individual's person that's dad started this radio station, and I know that this radio station is near and dear to her heart. So my main concern is this is Seguin. This is a small town. This is a passionate town about this. And the whole reason why I got on board is I'm passionate about this school district. But I don't want to see a fracture in this district, in this town, due to a purchase that seems to be, and by all review of the document, seems to be on the up and up. There's no issues there. I just don't see liability for the district, the liability issues. There's a couple of exhibits that's not provided here in this documentation. I don't know if that's because we're out in public and it has to be provided behind closed doors because it's not public information. And we may be receiving those, but I mean, at this time, I'm going to need more information. I'm going to need more time to think about this. I need to pray more about it and see what the, what the other aspect does. Then my other comment that I want to make is, we are a river town. We are on the river. This town floods often, unfortunately. But KWD, the radio station, is a large, vital part of the Guadalupe County Emergency Management System. Now, I am not certain who plans on being up here at 2 o'clock in the morning, like Mr. Dunn has done in the past, to update us and keep us apprised. Please, hey, and with all due respect, I agree with y'all on some things, but can you please let us hold our meeting so we can get through this, because the more we can get through, the more we can discuss this, the more we can make the appropriate decision for this town, please. And I ask that, I know what I'm saying is cheerful for y'all, and I know that, but it's very difficult for us to carry on a continuous thought here sometimes because there is so much going on. But, my thing is the emergency management plan. Have we discussed with the county, Mr. Kyle Kutcher, Judge Kutcher, have we discussed with the city? What are our details going to be as far as what we're going to move forward with them in this emergency management plan? And then the financials. Again, the financials. I really would like to see the unpaid accounts, how much is owed, what we're going to be absorbing, and what we're going to be looking at as far as unpaid advertising. I mean, if people aren't paying for advertising, are we going to have to, I read in here where it says that we're going to have to pay the owners for that unpaid advertising first before we get any of our money. So I just have a few more questions that I think need to be answered, and I want to get those out there before we move forward with anything else. But first, I'd like to discuss the emergency management, and I don't know if that pertains to you. I'd also like to talk about the financials and the unpaid accounts, and I don't know if that needs to be handled behind closed doors in executive sessions or not. It's something for the legal team to let me know. And then I need us to really sit here as a board and really consider this. We're going to be adding on employees. Is this the right thing to do at this time? And we're asking these people in this audience right here to set forth, and instead of taking a 2% increase in the INS side, to take a 2% increase or 2-cent increase on the M&O side, and they need to fully understand that. I think we should be focusing our time on explaining that to them instead of trying to move forward with this. I don't see this as being a time-sensitive material, and that's the reason why I'm kind of wondering why we can't have a little bit more time to look at this and review this. I mean, like I say, I'm looking at this document for the first time, and the reason why I haven't made my decision is because I have not seen this document prior to this, but I'm just, there's still a little bit more information, and y'all may be very willing, or your intent may be to provide the information with me, and I just want to make sure that I'm fully informed to make this decision. And at this time, I don't feel that way. These people in my district, my constituents in my district, elected me to make informed decisions for this district. And I am not informed completely at this time. Yes, I've read this information, but, I'm not a lawyer. I have my own legal counsel that I have ran a few things by on this, and they say if the FCC's given its blessing on it, then it's a deal that we can move into. But we're talking about a government entity, a business of education moving into the private sector, the private entity. And I know what we're trying to do. We're trying to sustain the local radio station and keep Seguin strong and add to it and provide, along the way, provide more opportunities to our students. I'm just concerned that we are making a move prematurely without going over all different aspects of this agreement as a board. And so I'm asking you board members to really consider what we're about to do today. If we need to table this and meet again as a workshop and go over each and every aspect of this. I mean, I'm a businessman, and I know that I'm not going to enter into a 5-year agreement on something without fully knowing everything that I'm about to do. Now, nothing against Mr. Rohn. I know he's a great businessman. Okay? But at the same, please, I've already asked. I'm not going to ask again. I'm not going to enter into a 5-year agreement without knowing everything about it. And I'm not asking you to do that. And I'm not asking these people to enter into that without knowing everything about it. Now, my job as the elected official is to make the decision for these people. Okay? And to be, but for me to do that, I need to be informed. And I just don't feel comfortable at this time. And if your intent is to give me more information, hey, I'm ready and willing to listen. But like I said, I think there's other avenues of this agreement that need to be said. Is the partnership a good idea? Oh, by all means. Are there other avenues of this, how we can make this partnership different? How we can venture into this in a different way? Yes. Can we team up? I mean, can we team up in a partnership? Can KWED still sustain this? Or can Guadalupe Media still sustain this entity, us join with them and share a part of this responsibility? Is that legal? Can we join together and share it together? Can we start smaller and go bigger? I mean, I'm from Mesquite, Texas. Okay? And I'm going to share this with y'all. I've had a Jumbotron at my high school stadium since 1984. Okay? I've had a radio station in my high school since the same time they built that, because they built a bowl and they put this big tower, and if anybody's been to Dallas and been on the east side of Dallas, you can see that tower for miles. And that's how I knew when I was coming home from school, that's how I knew I was almost home. So this is not nothing new. For the people out there that have ripped up my phone for the past 2 days saying that we don't need to be in this business, and that's incorrect. We are here to supply our students with the opportunity to do whatever we can give them the opportunity to do. But I don't think this is fully thought out. I don't think we've looked at every single option, and I don't think we as board members can move forward with this at this time. I think we do need to look at it further, and I think we need to put it aside for a little bit and really focus on what we're looking at needing to do in the month of September. You know, teachers, staff members need to be taken care of. And I can't get that enough across, that I got on here because of the staff members and the students, the faculty of this district. And I intend to stand by that. I was upfront and honest. I did not pull a single punch about what my intentions were when I ran for this seat. And I plan to uphold that. Because at the end of the day, the only thing I got left is my word, and I'm going to stand on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments from board members? If you'd like to make a question, yes, sir, I need a question, a statement that Mr. Holt made. This operations will continue, like he mentioned, the emergency management crisis, where all the entities use the media, all that's staying the same, correct? Operations is changing, please.
Okay, so with an emergency management plan is designed to work with more than one person. It's written, it has specific guidelines, it's approved, and so if Dot's in charge of the emergency management plan here when we need to provide housing or something, if Dot is sick that day or not there that day, we have someone that is trained that comes in. If she leaves the district, someone else comes in. That's would be the same kind of process that we would follow with KWD. We also provide a lot of information as a school district to the local news media and to the parents about road closures and that stuff too. We have people up here, like James Pizzana is up here in the middle of the night. we have a lot of those folks that are up there making sure that the roads aren't iced over for our kids. They know every route, they know every street, they drive it ahead of time to make sure there's no issues. So we provide that when we send our few hundred buses out every day and when they come home. And one of the things that this partnership allows is if we've got two people doing that, there's some ways where we can maximize our staffing needs and still meet our emergency management needs. So I feel like, I know that Mr. Pizzana and the staff that we have that sends our kids out every day through inclement weather, to and from, early release, that stuff, pretty much have a grip on the delivery of kids and roads and conditions in Guadalupe County. We also are a member of emergency management response teams that we've been vetted on, and we've had our staff trained and cross-trained in that stuff. And so I believe that yes, we would be able to meet those needs.
Yes, ma'am. Whistle.
Yes, I wanted to see if either Mr. Hilberg or Mr. Rohn could answer Mr. Holt's question about the funds it would take to pick up the existing accounts payable for the radio that were delinquent, and the question regarding, if they're not getting sufficient advertising revenue now to stay solvent or in danger of going under and leaving Seguin, then how will we do it different? So the first part of the question being their existing accounts payable, and the second, the future advertising revenues.
As we structured the agreement, when we take over accounts payable, we will take over the accounts payable. They will clear the debt from that day backwards. From that day forwards, we will collect revenue and start new marketing ventures. That's.
Excuse me, when you say clear the debt with the first payment, or with a lump sum down, or what? How are they clearing the debt?
I'm assuming they're going to write a check for it. I mean they're going to pay for it somehow. Whether they're going to, we've got the accounts separated. It's kind of like, when if you have your debt, you've been driving the car, it needs to have a full tank of gas in it. You drive it, it's got a half tank of gas. I'll fill it up and you pay me, but we've got, what I'm saying is that debt is old debt, that's their debt. Then the new debt preceding that day, and that's what we've negotiated, going forward will be our debt. Now, as far as solvency, the last 2 years, about 60,000 roughly was read last year. This year return was about.
Is that total? Is that total for radio and newspaper, or separate?
Yes, ma'am. That's total. 69,907, 2014. So $70,000. 2015, it was upside down, 87,123. I think over the years, I don't know the exact amount, but it's been, the shareholders have made substantial investments each year on this, and it hasn't gotten any better. And we were talking about ways we could keep the radio station so that if they did have to make a change to make it solvent, that it wouldn't be syndicated out to another town and we wouldn't have a local station. So the idea is that if we cut back on utilities, on taxes, and that kind of stuff, bring the employees in, use our accounting team where they don't have those bills, increase our marketing attack to where we have, we throw in all of the things that the district has, whether all the different advertising means, and couple those together. And I think we've given you all 7 possibilities here that we can market ourselves with local businesses so that they get a better deal. We can then use those savings to easily hit our $87,000 mark. Now, that means that we may have to streamline some of our processes within the organization and bring some of those things that we currently do, that we do and they do, it's redundant. I mean, if we can get the redundancy out of it, we can save some money there. And we also get the added benefit of being one of the only districts in the region that has the options for our kids to be able to learn about journalism and radio, and tie that to a video scoreboard, to where we have really a really cutting edge advertising package for the community, and our students get to experience those opportunities as well.
I don't want to monopolize all the questions, but I have a few more. Okay. One, I'll just bluntly ask, did the stake shareholders of Guadalupe Media, were the majority of them in favor of this, or did the majority feel this was a hostile takeover, or what was the reaction on the other side? Because I think there's a question and a perception out there about that.
Let me go in this room.
Yes, sir.
So I work closely with the council on the Guadalupe. I work closely with council, with Guadalupe Media. He and I went back and forth on this several times, both conferring with our respective clients. Unfortunately, the nature of the relationship is, as an attorney, I can't contact their client directly and hear their thoughts on that. That gets channeled through their attorney to me. So it was brought to his board. They discussed. It was voted upon. He said, yes, we agree, and that's really the extent of our knowledge at this point.
So there were negotiations, and their attorney came back to you and said, yes, they voted and they're in favor of doing this.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was independent of any meeting with anybody in this room, or unless they work for that company. But
Yes, ma'am. We were not involved in that. Again, it was an arm's length negotiation. The attorneys met. We retreated to our corners, if you will. We met, discussed with our clients, and then met in agreement.
okay, so they obviously viewed that as a win-win, or they would not have voted for it. Guadalupe Media would not have voted for it.
That was my opinion, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, one other thing I'd like to add to that is that they called me and spoke with me, and the majority of the stakeholders were in agreement with this move. And we spent probably a month and a half just kind of looking at what we could do to try to make this a partnership, because truly we do want to keep the radio station here, and we truly want to have a local newspaper. I mean, and they have to be able to find a way to do that. I think that over the last 10 years, it's almost been, $800,000, $700,000 that they've been spending, and this $100,000 a year adds up. And so if they can find a way to still maintain some say-so and still be able to keep their employees there, and kind of, we can keep the radio station and the newspaper here. So, that was how this all got started. So.
Okay, my last question, I think, for now was, so will this create a new department in the school district? Will it be under journalism or fine arts? Will we hire a coordinator? How many people will we be hiring to do this? And also, the advertising be under the business, students, so students can learn about accounts payable, accounts receivable. I mean, how much student run, how much staff run, and what additional staffing?
Well, first, we have, we're blessed here because we do have a public information officer, had that person here for years. And one of the things that we can do is we can merge those two together right here in central office. The employees that we bring in, remember, with the advertisements, we have to make up $87,000 to make this a push. We don't have to make money on this thing. I want our kids to get the experience too. I want the employees to be able to stay and get their experience and do their jobs. We already write articles and do that stuff and submit that to them, so there's some redundancy there. If we're able to streamline this and find a way to work together, then we can still target those areas that we want to target. As far as personnel goes, as we bring their personnel in and mesh their personnel with our personnel to see where we can streamline and where we can work together, and then we can look at ways that we can save and make this an endeavor that is a partnership that keeps everybody able to be viable and stay in the community locally.
Okay, so this is, the object then would be to obviously not be in the red because you can't run a business that way, but would be to mostly break even with understanding for the students, hands-on, for the students. And the other thing was, I think there's a real concern when, we're all in favor, I think, of business and school partnerships as far as there's businesses that, donate, use kids, do, CTE, stuff like that. But if a school district buys a newspaper and a radio station, or leases rather, whatever it turns out to be, that this will just be the mouthpiece for the school. And as we all know, in America, we want to keep a democracy. We want to keep our news fair and balanced, and we don't want it slanted one way or the other. We want all sides to be represented in a newspaper or a radio station. So it's very crucial that it would remain balanced and not just be an aren't we wonderful, for the school district. I'm not talking about the students, but I'm talking about the personnel. So how can the community be assured that there will be fairness in content, and it will be unbiased, and it will be not your personal mouthpiece, Superintendent Roan, or Mr. Flores, or any one of us on the board? But I think there's a real concern about that in keeping media, newspapers, fair and unbiased. So how will you do that? Will it be a hands-off, and the journalism teacher will decide, most of content, or how do you see that being worked out?
That's a good question. I believe that that right now you can look at any newspaper, any organization, and you can say, well, I think it's slanted this way, I think it's slanted that way. The truth of the matter is that how we would try to work this out is we would keep the same employees that would come aboard. We're going to have to, we can't keep running 100, the newspaper's not going to, the radio station and the newspaper is not going to be able to run a $100,000 deficit year after year and stay in Seguin. So that, it's just not going to be able to. And, we've got examples here where schools have done this. Now, I don't think that there's going to be a bias, but everybody that writes a newspaper sees something from their lens. If you're pro-school, if you don't like the school, if you're Republican, if you're Democrat, if you're independent, we have, lots of different people that write in both of our papers. But the easiest way to keep things in check, in my opinion, is just to remember that we have more than one newspaper. We do. And they're going to continue to do their deal, and we're going to continue, if we do this, then we're going to write positive things, and we're going to talk about the community, and we're going to talk about our kids and what they're doing. We're going to talk about new housing developments and things like that. We're going to develop a journalistic approach to the newspaper that we're going to work with the current folks that are there, and we're going to talk to our kids. They have cricket chirps. That instead of a separate publication, that would go in. So there's a lot of, and I believe you've seen this. You've seen this. You brought this to the school.
Yes, I did. I brought it from a seminar in either Corpus Christi or San Antonio. Yeah, it was at TASB, Texas Association of School Boards Conference. I attended a presentation where Longview shared their their newspaper that they share with the community. So there would, typically on a newspaper, there's an editorial board, or there's various things like that, and there's various things that determine it. So and there's always a chain of command in any organization, in a school board. So who would be tasked with content?
Well, I think that content would be more driven by what's happening in the community. For instance, if we had a meeting like this, that would be covered. If we had our school board meetings, that would be covered. I mean, it's what's happening in the community that sets the content.
Right, but who would be the editor or the publisher? Would it be
Well,
you or someone else?
It would probably be, it could be me, it could be our public information officer.
Sorry about the
Yes.
22. All right. The next outburst, we will ask all people in this room to leave. So if you would please give courtesy. This is a board meeting of the board members, so please.
The issue is that as with any organization, whether it's any local newspaper or any issue like that, they're going to have someone that deals with that. It would, somebody like our public information officer. I mean, he's been doing a fine job with our multimedia, with Facebook. I mean, we've got constituents that work within the school district. We've got a journalism department. We got kids that participate. These people don't have a malintent. I mean, they're going to do their best to try to produce a good newspaper that focuses on positive things in the community, and that's really the driving factor.
So is the person still to be determined then, or would it be Sean or Hoffman?
Yes. Well, right now it would right now as it sets, it would probably be our public information officer, which that is Sean Hoffman, but he would work closely with the sports,
existing employees.
Well, I mean, like if the sports guy goes and does a football game, he's going to put what happened at the football game in there. So, I mean, we're not going to say, well, don't write about the football game. I mean, he's going to write about the football game. He's going to write about the basketball game. And Sean's going to help put it in a fashion where we have one person that answers for how that paper came out. We can't have 5 people in charge of it. There needs to be one person that can be held accountable for what is in that newspaper.
You're thinking that might be Mr. Hoffman at
I'm
this
thinking
point?
that right now that makes the most sense. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Hall.
Okay. Seguin Daily News and KWED extend beyond the boundaries of Seguin ISD district lines. I see a representative here from Marion, a business owner here that I'm friends with. I know of people in the Shorts area as well as the Geronimo area. I know that we do cover, that KWE does cover other districts' games and stuff, and I want to make sure that that's going to continue on, because that support for those districts is just as important as the support for our district. Even though we are larger, we still need to consider our neighbors and our other occupants of Guadalupe County. And then that's the first avenue. The second thing I came up with too is what's the total yearly expense that we're going to have to add to our budget? I know that Mr. Hilberg said that we weren't going to have to pay the lease fee out of a taxpayer funds, and I'm going to go into time brokerage agreement, line item 6, we will be responsible for lease payments for own use of facilities, power, utility bills for office, insurance costs related to programmers' own telephone, maintenance of own studios, salary, payroll, taxes, insurance related costs of programs management, other personnel employed by the programmer. So I'm wondering what we're going to increase our budget by. I guess is what I'm looking at. Do we have a business plan, financial plan that would kind of, do the numbers work? I mean, I know that you wouldn't be presenting this to us if they didn't. No smart businessman would. But, and I feel you're a smart businessman. I really do. I've seen you've got profitable companies throughout. You know when to pull the chain and when not. But I've got to make this decision for this community, and I got to feel comfortable about it. And the more I look at this, I just there's too many unknowns for me. Now, granted, I don't want to micromanage this district. That's not my job. My job is an oversight board member. Okay, I'm not here to micromanage it. But if I'm going to make a decision, and I got to put my trust in you wholeheartedly, I got to put my trust in you on a lot of things. But something that's so passionate to my constituents, I got to feel comfortable about putting that trust in you to handle it and handle it appropriately. And no disrespect to you, and no disrespect to any person in this room when I call y'all out about making noise stuff. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm just trying to get down and make sure that we make a well-informed decision. And I don't hear well all the time, so sometimes even this lady right here talking, I can't even hear her, and she's sitting right next to me. So, and you can ask my wife, she's somewhere here in the room, she'll vouch to that. So I just want to be totally clear, because this is very important. I mean, you see the number of people that showed up to express or to share their desire for this to go one way or the other. And I can say, and for those of you that laughed a while ago about a comment Mr. Thomas made, I have had people call me and support this decision as well. So there are people out there pushing for the negative side of it, but there also are people out there that say, let's move forward, that have no personal gain in this whatsoever, that have nothing to personally gain in this whatsoever. So this town, it seems to be so fractured at this point, and I want to see this town get back together. I want to see this district get back together and work with these community members, these businesses. I've got friends that own businesses in this town. I've got people that are friends that work for several businesses in this town. I want to see Seguin ISD, and our surrounding neighbors grow, prosper, and do further educate our kids in ways that we haven't even thought of. And like I said before, this is old hat to my school district that I came from and I graduated from. We started doing this a long time ago. Now, I can't sit here and tell you the pertinence about how we started it. Did we start our own? Did we acquire one? Did we move forward? Now, do I see some cost-saving factors here? Oh, most definitely. Do I think that we can possibly even turn this into a money-making? I don't. Possibly I do. I like packaging. Believe me, I get hit up from my business a lot to support these students in this town. I get hit up from surrounding groups. And no disrespect to surrounding groups, but I'm a Seguin ISD board member. I'm going to support Seguin, and I'm going to support others if I have left over. Okay, but Seguin comes first in that aspect, and no disrespect by all means. But I want to see this get better. I mean, and we've got to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and I just got to know that we're not digging a hole we can't get out of, and I'm trying to find in here, and legal, you can probably help me, counsel. What if we get into this 2 years in and we don't foresee it being the way we want to go? We're in here, and like I say, I was trying to find it in the first agreement. We're in here. Does it give us the ability to? So we can extend that.
That's how I read it, the PC attorney.
Yes, sir. And yes, ma'am, you're correct. So we always try to leave ourselves the option to sever the contract should we find it's not favorable for either party. That is written into the contract as it stands. It needs to be adopted as it stands. We would be able to essentially walk away. There's a couple of details to that I will be discussing with you in executive.
Okay.
But that is essentially how it stands at this time.
Well, then, in light of needing more information, and I think some of this information will be coming to us in executive session because it's not public information to be shared.
That's right.
And that would be the only reason why we go into executive session over this. I think we do need to look forward, we need to move forward into executive session so that we can get this information, so that we can further and come closer to making an informed decision here. And that's just my recommendation, Mr. President.
Before we go into executive session as requested by a board member, you mentioned something, Mr. Hull, in regards to a business plan. Obviously, our business is education of children, balanced budget, and obviously, administration, legal counsel, Guadalupe Media would not move forward with this if they didn't have a business plan already and a financial plan already identified for the positive in both entities. Is that correct?
I haven't seen it, and I'm not going to assume anything.
Okay.
I assumed on a couple of documents before, and I made a hot water, so I'm not
That's why I
going
want to
to.
make sure that they have opportunity to rebuttal that and make that statement that it is true. So, correct. So with that being said, council, yes, we'll go into executive session.
Yes, sir.
All right, so with that being said, in pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.074, and 551.129, in consultation with legal counsel, including possible telephone consultation with our legal counsel as necessary to address any legal concerns, implications, and answers any legal questions regarding the posted agenda items. And also in pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, the deliberation of employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, and this regards to deliberation on possible legal action regarding damage to Seguin ISD buildings. Time now is 1:08. It's now 2:47. We will call this meeting back to open session. Do I have a motion for agenda item A?
President Flores,
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we hire O'Hanlon Law Firm on a contingency basis to pursue all necessary legal action to recover damages that occurred to our SISD infrastructure.
Motion made by Mr. Hull. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Thomas. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. No opposition, and motion passes. Do I have a motion for the next agenda item?
Yes, I have a motion. I make a motion to authorize the administration to continue negotiations and enter into an agreement with Guadalupe Media as discussed in open session.
We have a motion by Ms. Sewell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ghetto. Is there any other further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. One opposition. Motion passes. It is now 2:48, and this meeting is now adjourned.